Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Entol Iqbal, NPM MB 2022-2021. Pada kesempatan kali ini saya akan membahas budaya organisasi salah satu perusahaan multinasional ternama di dunia, yaitu SoftBank, perusahaan multinasional dari Jepang, di mana dalam hal ini saya akan membahas dari mulai sejarah berdirinya perusahaan SoftBank sampai sustainable perusahaan pada masa-masa sekarang. Terkait dengan hal tersebut, saya akan memutarkan salah satu video yang saya ambil dari sumber Bloomberg dari YouTube untuk kita lihat bersama-sama bagaimana perkembangan perusahaan, dan akan saya kaitkan pada akhir video ini mengenai budaya organisasi yang sudah dibangun dari mulai perusahaan berdiri sampai menjadi perusahaan multinasional yang meraksasa sampai dengan saat ini. Oke, terima kasih. Kita mulai videonya.
SoftBank. It's one of those companies that you hear a lot about, but are never really sure what they actually do. As it turns out, answering that question, what do they do, is surprisingly complicated. Today, we're going to see how SoftBank's founder, Masayoshi Son, was a business prodigy, and from the start, he's always had an eye for opportunity, especially when it comes to technology in the future. Son was born in Japan in 1957, and his grandparents were immigrants from Korea. His family worked their way out of poverty when he was a young teenager. At age 16, he read a book by Den Fujita, the founder of Japan's McDonald's. The book had such an influence on him that he decided to meet the popular entrepreneur. Son's calls and letters weren't ignored.
I called his assistant, and long distance call. Back then it was so expensive. I made almost 100 calls, 60 calls. Could you ask him? And she said, "Oh, I will try, but he's not going to meet with a student." I said, "Well, don't decide by yourself. Let him decide." Okay. So I spoke with the assistant, different assistants so many times. They don't give me the right answer, so I said, okay, this is a waste of my telephone bill. So I flew into Tokyo, and I said, I came because the phone call becoming more expensive than air ticket.
He gave you some advice, which was to learn.
Yeah, I asked him, what business should I do? Computer. That's the one. If I were you, at your age, at this time, don't look at the past industry. Look at the future industry. That's the one, computer industry. That's the one you should focus. If I were you, that's the one. So I said, wow, great.
He resolved to follow Fujita's advice and study both computer science and English. Those skills were quickly put to use when he moved to San Francisco and blew through high school in just 3 weeks. He did this by studying insanely hard and attempting the college entrance exam almost as soon as he got there, and he passed all 6 subjects. Here's a quote from Son at the time. Quote, "I don't have much time to waste. One can think as much as he likes. However, I need to act and follow through with my ambition because we only live once. I want to do something that will be remembered in history. If I do the same as the others do, I will never be able to make history." End quote. After passing the test, he could enter American University. Masayoshi Son decided to study computer science and economics. While he was still a student in 1976, Son started his first business enterprise. Here is an interview with Son explaining the story of how he did it.
Well, I was a good student. I have to make money. I want to earn $10,000 per month, and I will allow myself 5 minutes a day. So I asked my friends, isn't it a good job that I can earn $10,000 in 5 minutes a day? My friend said, you're crazy, it's impossible, nothing like that. Do you want to sell drug? So no, I don't want to do that. So I said, okay, what is the best, most efficient use of my time? It's invention. It's invention, and I have to file patent. If I get the patent, 5 minutes, if I focus, I can some idea. I can make some idea. So I set alarm clock 5 o'clock, 5 minutes. Take. In 5 minutes, I said, come, invention, come, right? So I did that.
And it worked.
It worked.
You invented a machine that helped people translate languages?
Yeah, that one was the electronic dictionary. The first electronic dictionary. Many students use electronic dictionary. The first one ever made was by myself.
First electric dictionary.
Yes.
After this, Son sold the technology to electronics giant Sharp for $1.7 million. He was just 19 years old. While most of us would have taken the year off, perhaps with cocktails and on sunny beaches, Son made another $1.5 million by importing used video game machines from Japan. Son graduated in 1980, and although he had already had some great success in his early few years in America, he decided that the Japanese work ethic and staff loyalty were valuable assets for any company, so he moved back to Japan and started looking for opportunities. Unlike many business founders who had a fixed passion and turned that into a business, Son took a much more analytical approach. He set up a matrix and ranked every potential business against his own fixed criteria. This included things like, he must love the business for 50 years, it must be unique, and he must become a market leader within 10 years. He looked at a broad range of options, from obvious choices such as software development to completely new industries like healthcare management. In the end, he chose something close to his expertise. In 1981, Japan SoftBank was formed. Son saw a big gap in the market. Many PCs needed software to run on their systems, but the software developers lacked the money and sales skills to reach hardware manufacturers. He quickly won a contract with the country's largest PC retailer, Joseon Denki Co., making SoftBank their exclusive software purchaser. Within a year, the company was selling over $2 million of software a month. Son quickly diversified. In May of 1982, they started a publishing monthly computer magazine. They took heavy losses at the beginning, but by the 90s, SoftBank dominated the market for high-end tech magazines. They would use the magazines to heavily promote their own products, so cross-promotion was very valuable. To reflect its increasingly diverse portfolio, SoftBank was renamed SoftBank Corp in 1990, and the following decade saw them become a huge negotiator in tech-based business deals. It was this decade that would see Son be named the Bill Gates of Japan. In the 90s, the company began to grow every facet of their business. For the magazines, they bought up publishers in the United States and took control of many major trade shows, including Comdex, the largest computer expo at the time. For hardware, they bought a majority stake in the memory card maker Kingston and bought shares in media companies and satellite broadcasting companies in Australia and Japan. The next big step was to join the dot-com boom. In 1996, SoftBank became the biggest shareholder in Yahoo and set up Yahoo Japan. This ended up being a common tactic, investing in US companies and then setting up a Japanese version. Son has stated that he believed that localizing these businesses made them more likely to succeed. Yahoo Japan, till this day, is still the country's most widely used search engine, even though it's now powered by Google. However, all this internet investment meant that SoftBank was seriously exposed when the dot-com bubble popped in at the turn of the millennium. Son himself had just passed Bill Gates to have the highest net worth in the world, but suddenly, in just one day, it all imploded. He dropped from a net worth of $78 billion to just $8 billion overnight. While others may have thrown in the towel, Son simply just went to look for more opportunities, even saying that maybe this was a good thing because now he was able to find rock-bottom prices. SoftBank invested in broadband providers, telecom companies such as Vodafone, and spent $30 million on an unknown Chinese startup called Alibaba. This original $30 million stake is now worth close to $150 billion. So that leads us to today. What about the rest of their portfolio? What does SoftBank do currently? Today, the SoftBank Group has an annual revenue of $82 billion, making it the 72nd largest company in the world and the 7th largest in Japan. In addition to the companies I mentioned before, SoftBank also owns Sprint Corporation, a company that made over $30 billion in revenue last year and also owns Boost Mobile and Virgin Mobile. SoftBank Group also owns the microprocessor design company ARM. ARM processors are designed to be light on power, cost-effective, and very efficient. For this reason, ARM processors are the basis for pretty much all of our mobile devices, from the iPhone X to the iPad to Samsung devices and the Google Pixel lineup. In fact, over 100 billion ARM chips have been sold to date. So that's all well and good, But perhaps the most fascinating area is their foray into robotics. If any of you have seen the Atlas robot or the Spot Mini robots, you'd probably know that they're made by Boston Dynamics. Well, Boston Dynamics is owned by SoftBank. When you combine this with their commercially available Pepper robot that went on sale in 2015, then you pretty much have a company that's very prepared for robots to be a part of daily life. There are already hundreds of thousands of robots in use across Japan. Pepper already works in many customer service positions, for example. So almost at the end of the video, but let's just take a look at how SoftBank analyzes the future. SoftBank's approach to the future is a much more long-term vision than any other company. Son has set up a plan for how SoftBank will continue to grow for the next 300 years. This is fueled by the SoftBank Vision Fund. They have multiple investors in the fund with big hitters like Apple, the Saudi government, and Foxconn. They aim to raise $100 billion in 2017 and came close, raising $93 billion. A third of that money has already been invested. The Vision Fund has a 15% share in Uber, 20% share in Flipkart, 5% share in Nvidia, and another 5% share in the messaging app Slack, as well as various other shares in about 1,000 companies. SoftBank has even spent $300 million on a walking dog service called WAG. The other areas that they're looking into include biotech, financial systems, mobile apps, Internet of Things devices, and almost anything with a technological element to it. So, SoftBank's strength is in its diversity and the fact that they get in early on many different industries. Looking at all the stuff they're investing in, it seems that Son's 300-year plan doesn't seem quite so crazy. So I guess we'll check back in 2318 for an update. So there you have it. That's the story of SoftBank, the brainchild of the very intelligent Masayoshi Son, otherwise known as the Bill Gates of Japan. So anyway, thanks for watching.
Oke, demikian tadi video yang sudah saya putarkan. Dari video tersebut, maka akan saya sedikit menjelaskan budaya organisasi yang sudah diterapkan oleh perusahaan SoftBank melalui chairman-nya yaitu Bapak Masayoshi-san, yaitu budaya organisasi yang bersifat patrilineal, di mana beliau menerapkan budaya organisasi yang bersifat menekan kepada para pegawainya untuk selalu berinovasi, melakukan pekerjaan dengan sungguh-sungguh sesuai dengan prosedur, serta tidak melaksanakan pekerjaan di luar daripada hal-hal yang sudah ditentukan oleh perusahaan, sehingga perintah dari Bapak Masayoshi-san itu bisa dilaksanakan oleh para seluruh staf daripada perusahaan multinasional SoftBank itu sendiri. Oke, kemudian saya akan membahas sedikit perkembangan daripada perusahaan SoftBank yang sudah secara mendunia, meraksasa, serta memiliki berbagai macam ekspansi usaha dari mulai usaha hulu sampai usaha hilir. Di mana dalam hal ini terkait dengan mata rantai bisnis yang membuat perusahaan itu memiliki sustainabilitas atau kekuatan perusahaan yang tidak bisa dianggap remeh. Di mana dalam hal ini banyak perusahaan-perusahaan teknologi yang sudah diakuisisi, yang secara global jumlahnya itu mencapai 1.300 perusahaan, baik yang sedang berkembang maupun perusahaan yang sudah mapan. Di mana dalam hal ini SoftBank mengakuisisinya melalui pasar bursa saham. Dalam hal ini juga kita bisa mengamati bahwa budaya organisasi yang dibangun untuk membangun suatu mata rantai bisnis yang kuat serta berkesinambungan dimulai menggunakan suatu sistem pembentukan karakter di mana para staf diberikan satu arahan yang sifatnya general, yang sifatnya merupakan suatu kehendak dari pemimpin perusahaan untuk para pekerja itu melaksanakan pekerjaannya sesuai dengan arahan atau perintah daripada chairman atau CEO daripada SoftBank itu sendiri. Dalam hal ini kita tidak terlalu familiar mengenai perusahaan SoftBank karena banyak produk-produk SoftBank itu sebetulnya terkamuflasikan oleh perusahaan-perusahaan multinasional lain yang sudah diakuisisi oleh SoftBank. Misalkan SAF, Fujitsu, Alibaba, dan lain sebagainya. Menilik dari perkembangan sejarahnya, sekilas grup SoftBank itu adalah perusahaan kedua terbesar di Jepang setelah Toyota. Dan itu tidak lepas dari kepemimpinan seorang leader sekaligus pemegang saham, yaitu Masayoshi Son. Keulatannya mengelola perusahaan membuat perusahaan ini mengungguli peringkat perusahaan besar seperti Walt Disney, Coca-Cola, atau IBM. Hingga sekarang, banyak perusahaan yang turut berinvestasi sebagai pemegang saham di sini. Kiprahnya sebagai pengusaha memang patut diacungi jempol. Pria kelahiran Jepang ini lama tinggal di Amerika dan memiliki strategi bisnis yang dikenal ganas. Saham perusahaan ini pernah melejit hingga 6% seketika dan menjadikan Son meraup keuntungan miliaran dolar. Karena salah satu strategi bisnis yang dijalankan bersama Donald Trump yang waktu itu menjabat sebagai Presiden Amerika. Awal berdiri perusahaan SoftBank, waktu itu masih berada pada bisnis penerbitan majalah khusus komputer. Kemudian perusahaan melakukan ekspansi usaha, dimulai daripada membeli Comdex pada medio tahun 95 dengan harga ratusan juta dolar, dan kemudian melejit sahamnya menjadi miliaran dolar. Kemudian jika kita mendengar nama Yahoo, layanan internet ini juga tidak lepas dari kiprah perusahaan Jepang ini. Pada kisaran tahun 90-an, perusahaan memutuskan untuk bersinergi dengan Yahoo yang kala itu sedang naik daun popularitasnya. Kemudian melakukan akuisisi beberapa perusahaan sebagai corporate action. Nah, corporate action ini adalah strategi daripada SoftBank untuk mengkamuflasikan bahwa SoftBank itu ada. Jadi kita tidak tahu SoftBank itu seperti apa. Padahal SoftBank itu terkamuflasikan oleh produk-produk multinasional lain yang sudah kita kenal sebelumnya seperti SAP, Alibaba, dan lain sebagainya. Kemudian terakhir untuk pembahasan perusahaan multinasional SoftBank ini, perusahaan ini pada waktu-waktu sekarang lebih meningkatkan kekuatan dan popularitasnya melalui teknologi komunikasi, di mana teknologi komunikasi ini sudah merambah dari berbagai macam segi lini kehidupan, dari mulai lapisan masyarakat bawah sampai lapisan masyarakat atas, kemudian di lain segi juga dari perusahaan, dari mulai perusahaan yang baru mulai berjalan sampai ke perusahaan besar, semua sudah menggunakan teknologi komunikasi juga di bidang birokrasi pemerintahan. Dari pusat sampai ke pemerintah daerah sudah menggunakan teknologi informasi sebagai tulang punggung pelaksanaan pekerjaannya dan pelaksanaan tugas. Mungkin itu sedikit pembahasan dari saya mengenai budaya organisasi yang dibangun oleh salah satu perusahaan multinasional raksasa dari Jepang, yaitu perusahaan SoftBank. Semoga video ini bisa bermanfaat. Lebih kurangnya saya mohon maaf. Billahi taufik wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.